Welcome to the Industry Insider, brought to you by PromoCorner. Each week, promotional product professionals Meg Erber, Jeff Franklin, and Stephen McFadden, along with special guests, will discuss industry news, trends, and events with a focus on educating the promotional products industry. The Industry Insider, the nerdy news you need to know.
There we are. We're all in. All right. Welcome back to another Industry Insider, your promotional products podcast where you can get all the nerdy news you need to know about. My name is Jeff Franklin, National Accounts Manager with Headwear USA, and I'm joined today by three other lovely folks. But of course, before we get to them, we got to tell you about our fine sponsors for today, Brentwood Line, specializing in chairs, coolers, backpacks, and blankets, a well-respected supplier known not only for their high-quality products, but also known for their customer service. Brentwood Line values and appreciates its customers to the greatest extent, and they want to make sure that your expectations are met. So be sure to head over to BrentwoodLine.com to check out the latest and greatest products for all your outdoor needs. Why don't we say hi to Meg Erber, since she's like sitting right beside me.
Oh my gosh.
Meg, how are you?
You know what? It has been a crazy busy day. I was trying to get down here to DC. I had meetings all day. I was doing virtual meetings on the phone, in the background while I was driving. So it's been crazy, but I'm just so excited to be down here. And this is the first time, except for when we went live that one time from Vegas, maybe twice now. We've done it in person. But one time it was never, and never made it to air.
We did Promo East live with John Cudahy.
Okay, that's right.
Stephen wasn't with us. And then we did the live from Vegas, which we all three were together, which is awesome. But this is the first time
it's just been you
since then. Yeah, so pretty cool.
So good to see you. How are you?
You as well. I'm good, thanks. Looking forward to LEAD. That's why we're together. We're here in DC for Legislative Education and Action Day. I know we've talked about it on the podcast before, but if you're not familiar, definitely check it out. Reach out to Maurice Norris at PPAI and figure out how you guys can get involved. But we're here today to talk about the Promo 100, which is a new PPAI initiative. But of course, before we get into that, we'll talk to Stephen McFadden, our other co-host, and then our special guest for today. Stephen, how are you doing?
Good. I thought you were going to forget me for a second. I was like, it's okay. You know what?
I would never forget you, man. That's just not in my nature.
I am glad that I don't have to wear a horse head for this live episode like I did in Vegas.
Me too. The breath was just out of here.
Yeah, it was a lot. So
the horse head was cool though. You look like Buckets the drummer. Have you guys seen that YouTube channel? The shorts? No, Buckets the drummer.
Oh.
Look it up.
Buckethead. Buckethead was the guy that used to wear the KFC bucket on his head and was like awesome at guitar. So
no, this guy named Buckets the drummer. He basically drums on like these little Lowe's buckets, but he wears a horse head for his costume. It's pretty funny. Look it up. All right, Josh Ellis with PPAI, man. Super excited to have you on as a first-time guest to the podcast. And you're like the big-time publisher for all the PPAI editorial stuff, correct?
I don't know how big time, but
it's your big time.
It's pretty big time, man. Like I'll just put it out there.
So they gave me these business cards, and they do say publisher and editor in chief. I've been at PPAI about a year and a half, and we had a big announcement to the NALC attendees here this week of the PPAI 100 list, the industry leaders. I'm glad that you're in DC as well. It's weird to be podcasting with two people that are in the same building.
I know. I was gonna say, aren't you like upstairs?
I'm upstairs.
I feel like you should have just come down here and joined us. We should have been 3 and 1, and then Stephen just would have been really promo. You know,
yeah.
He would have been feeling left out. You know, you guys would have got another attendee next year.
I'm upstairs from you guys. So
you do look like you're in a different room, but that's not one of the hotel rooms. I'm looking at like my room faces like the other side of this building or something. It's like rooms and pipes and windows. Like, that's all I see.
Stephen got the presidential suite.
Yeah, I brought my dog and dog crate and curtains and all sorts of cool stuff. So
very nice. Well, Josh, like I said, it is our topic today. We're going to talk about Promo 100 a little bit and where this all started from, and maybe you'll give us a little bit of details, maybe you won't. I don't know what you're allowed to give us as the editor in chief, but why don't we? It is customary for us to give our special guest a good 3 to 4 minutes, though, just to introduce yourself and maybe how you got started in the promotional products industry and what you've been up to since. So take it away, man. Tell us about Josh Ellis.
So So I've been a journalist my whole career. Started out as a sports writer, got into business journalism. I was the editor-in-chief at a magazine that was for, independent salespeople, real estate agents, direct sellers, that sort of thing. And so the opportunity at PPAI came along for me about a year and a half ago, and there's a lot of crossover between the audience that I was used to working with on that side, and then our distributors. And a lot of people, it turns out, that are working for suppliers too, who as salespeople are sort of self-reliant for their results and their income and their ability to grow personally and push themselves will lead to their advancement. And so that aspect of the content is not particularly new. B2B is new for me, and promotional products as a whole are new for me. I think, like most people, I didn't even know it was an industry before I got here, and lo and behold, it's my whole job. Like every waking hour is spent worrying about this thing now. So yeah, been here about a year and a half. I got in December 2021, just in time to see the first expo back after the COVID hiatus, and so got my feet wet in the industry, and we've been reporting on the news of promo for that whole time. PPAI media, of course, goes back many years with the magazine and Newslink and things like that, and we've tried to take it a step forward and push the envelope a little bit with our content. Hopefully bring value and grow our audience and things like that. And it's gone pretty well. The team has built out a little bit. So I've had great support from the industry and the team at PPAI and our board and things like that. And I've really loved my time. It's been exciting to learn something new, this whole new industry that I knew nothing about. And every time that I feel like I know all there is to know, I realize that that's ridiculous. I don't know anything. There's a lot of layers to the onion, and I find something new every day that surprises me. So the probably the biggest project that I've worked on at any point in my career, and especially the last 6 months or so, have been hands-on, knee-deep in PPAI 100, not the Promo 100, Jeff, but we'll just reinforce the branding in there. It's the PPAI 100. And the tagline is the industry leaders. And that is because, unlike some other lists in the industry where other companies have ranked the largest businesses, largest suppliers and distributors, what we set out to do was to understand and list the leaders. And that is to say that as a nonprofit trade association that has the mission of advancing the industry as a whole and growing the pie for everyone, we wanted to identify the companies that were doing business the right way. And so some of the factors, we do have revenue as it's listed. It's part of our scoring. It's listed. It's important to any company to make money, right? But it's also important to grow as a company. And so that we included the businesses that are on a growth trajectory, specifically over the last 3 years. And we looked at other factors. For suppliers, it would be SAGE rating. For distributors, it would be credit rating, sort of factors of industry faith, and other things like corporate social responsibility adherence, digital transformation, best practices adherence, and employee happiness. A handful of really 8 scoring factors in total. Different weights.
So there's 8 different scoring factors. So yeah, that's one of the things that we want to definitely get into, is just like the different kind of things that are, I guess, the metrics that you guys are using to, I guess, create this PPAI 100. And I do apologize, I was saying Promo 100. All right. So PPAI 100. And that's one of the things you guys actually just released or sent out an email today, if I'm not mistaken, sort of about that. And there was a couple of people that was able to comment on it. I know Josh Papasil was one of them. Michael Harper from Summit was one of them as well. Michael was one of the ones that I had sort of resonated with the best, because he had mentioned, a lot of times when you're getting outside of the metrics of just volume driven, you're talking about something that could somewhat be subjective, right? So I'm very interested to hear about like what those different metrics are that you're using to sort of, rank these top 100 and how you go about doing that. So what are the eight different segments, I guess?
So there is 2022 revenue for this year, 2022. Next year will be 2023 revenue. There's revenue growth, and we did that two ways, both as a percentage of growth and as a whole number. So, if you're a certain size business and you grew, 50% over the last 3 years, then that should get some points. It should be considered, but maybe not as much as a business that only grew 10%, but that 10% equaled, a couple $100 million. So it's a little bit weighted that way. We included online presence, which is a factor of just how many visits your website gets, and really a testament to the strength of your marketing and maybe the power of communication that you have to your customers and on behalf of the industry. We have technology, digital transformation, best practice adherence, which I alluded to, along with corporate social responsibility. Employee happiness is one that I think that is important to consider. We're probably going to workshop how it's factored. For this year, it was, have they been included on PPAI's greatest companies to work for list in the last 3 years? And also there's a consideration of the strength of the workforce, and that comes down to certifications. How many MAS and CAS folks do you have on the roster? And then
So
also
that's interesting.
Why is that interesting?
Not to cut you off, but so how much does that weigh? Because, for instance, like here at SNS Activewear, it's not something that they've really pushed us to do, yet we've talked about it tremendously. Excuse me. Bloody Mary. Sorry. It just got me. I apologize. The CAS and MAS, I apologize. We've talked about it a lot on this podcast. What is the weight of that? Like, just saying, asking for a friend. What is the weight?
I just changed our name on the fly too, by the way. I don't know if you guys saw that or not.
Jeff and Meg.
I'm an MAS.
Yeah. So as a general rule, really not going to get into the specific weights of what percentage one category gets over another. But I will say that the largest factors far and away are revenue growth, and that industry faith. So for suppliers, Sage rating; for distributors, credit rating. And then the other factors taken as a whole are important, but no one of them is a deal breaker for most companies. So it's relatively minor. I'll tell you, less than 15% of the overall weight. But enough that if two companies were equal in everything else, then it would definitely tilt it.
So Josh, what percentage of it is distributors versus suppliers, and are service providers also eligible?
Service providers are not. That's been some feedback that we've heard about. There's some interest in including those, and we'll consider ways that we can do that, and other ways that we can recognize great service providers in the industry. But the list is 50 suppliers and 50 distributors.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too. Like, was it all suppliers? Did you have your own supplier list, own distributor list? Because you put out that most influential list, and it was for companies and individuals. So I wasn't sure how that was going to go. So you guys just kind of tiered it off like top 100. It's a mixture, hodgepodge, suppliers, distributors, no service providers. Got it.
It did say companies and individuals, right?
Yeah,
Why aren't service providers or multi-line reps included in that?
Because our industry and really in PPAI's role is to support the supply chain and the companies that import the products and decorate them and get them in the hands of our ultimate customers. And like I said, I think that there are ways that we can and should recognize multi-line reps and business services companies. It just didn't make it into this program. Difficult to score. There's obviously also a much more limited number of them.
Fair.
So you guys may have, or may not have noticed the familiar face that we have here. This is Cliff Quicksell. He will be, if you don't know him, he is also at Lead with us tomorrow or today when this is actually broadcasting. So Cliff, we're actually talking about the PPAI 100, and this is the top
Did you hear about that?
100 companies, I guess, rated by PPAI. I guess, what is it? Is it the most influential, most in value? I guess they're pulling a list together by revenue. Yeah, a bunch of characteristics. There's 8 different things.
The top 100 suppliers and distributors all in one group based on 8 different metrics that Josh was just going over with us. Basically, it's a lot of like revenue, growth, number of certification, that sort of thing.
Profitability?
Yes.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, that's good. I think that's great.
I don't know that Josh mentioned profitability, but maybe that should be.
So
I don't know how you guys would measure that. That's not like that's not something, a metric that you guys like.
Yeah,
really take
nobody's going to actually cough that information up.
some of them did. So hey, good to see
Yeah.
you. So that's the exciting part of this. It's one thing to identify some of these leading companies, but the most important part of this project was data collection and the aggregation of data. And so profitability was not a scoring factor for us, but it was a question that we asked companies. Part of this was the info gathering for this is we sent out surveys on a handful of these topics where we didn't have access to the information already. And one of them was sort of business fundamentals. And so we're compiling, benchmarking data on the leading suppliers and the leading distributors. And we can be able to say to the rest of the industry, okay, these are the practices of the leading companies. This is what they do on technology. This is what they do on CSR. This is what they do. These are what their business KPIs in aggregate for the top 50 on either side of the industry. This is what they are. So I can tell you, based on our data collection, that while I won't be able to say exact profit, I can tell you that the margin for suppliers is 35% and the margin for distributors is 34%. So if you're gathering, you can probably read between the lines once the revenue information comes out as part of this. But so we are going to provide that benchmarking data. And the other thing that's really cool is how the rest of the industry can learn from it.
So when are you guys releasing all that information? Because I know we're somewhat held under secrecy today because the list literally just came out, I think, yesterday, right? So when is all that being released, and where can people find that information, Josh?
So we gave a sneak peek to the attendees at NALC on June 5th, and it'll be available to the industry as a whole in NewsLink, our e-newsletter, for suppliers on June 20th and distributors on June 27th. All of the information, that benchmarking data I talked about, will be available those weeks as well. We'll do suppliers the first week, distributors the next, and kind of roll it out slowly and milk it for all of the work that me and the team put in to make sure that we stretch it. And but there's a lot of great information. And
so let me segue us, because I'm curious. What are you guys all doing there?
We just got here. But wait, hold on. I have a quick question. This was a really important decision. What was the feedback that you received at NALC? Like was there a surprise? Was there like, oh yeah, of course. What was the feedback that you received when you guys announced and unveiled the top 100 companies for as per PPAI? What was the general consensus?
Yeah, so I think in some cases there was surprise. Companies, people in this industry are familiar with other lists that have been done based on revenue, and so there was probably an exact order that they might have been expecting, and in some cases there were surprises for folks, companies that would not have made other lists that were based just on revenue, but on the whole, they are run in such a way that they did deserve a place on our list as the metrics bore out. So people were generally very appreciative that we looked at those other factors. I think that if you were going to consider, the most admirable companies in the world, Saudi Aramco or whatever may make the most money, but people don't necessarily look up to it and try to emulate it. So I think that people understood what we were going for the most part. There's some questions and wondering about the process, and it's one that we'll tweak over time. The mission and the objective of the list as a whole in years to come will always be the same thing: identify the industry leaders, the companies that are pushing us all forward. But the categories and the scoring weight, it may turn out to need to change over time, and we'll keep an eye on that and try to do the best we can.
I want to, if you don't mind me.
No, come on in.
It's really interesting because your listeners here know that I'm all about profitability. And when I hear that 32 to 34% margin, I'm really going to do a deep dive in my head and do some research to figure out why that is. Why is it that there are some folks that are writing business at 32, 34% industry average? And you and I had this conversation earlier, and I know that I work with people that are writing at 50 to 60% margin. And so the question is, what causes that? Is the driver what the supplier's suggestive sell is, and then people just get comfortable with that and say, that's what you think?
Yeah, I think so. I do. 100% I do.
So the suppliers are only suggesting a 30% margin?
No.
They're doing 40 to 30, 37 to 40%.
Yeah, but we're talking about the distributor.
I know, it's 32 to 35.
No, but I mean, when I
you can bring Kinter over here. When I tell you, like the average markup's like 30% for a supplier.
When I started Headwear, one of the things that we decided was net pricing. And people are like, well, what the heck do we charge for it? Whatever you can, whatever you want. And the thing is, you and I were talking about that, whatever the market bears, and this idea that you have to be, and I don't want to hijack this, but this idea that you have to be at 30, whatever a supplier suggests that you do, that's great, but I choose not to do that.
Well, see, I choose to do that, but you got to know the industry though.
Oh yeah.
So like, my point to you was like, I used to, there's certain suppliers that you can sort of pin against each other, right? Like, there's some suppliers who hey, look, you sell, as long as you're comparing apples to apples, it's all price driven. So if one supplier sells higher based on apples to apples, sell at that freaking price and make more margin. I don't understand like why it's a big deal.
It's very competitive when you get to the distributor end of it, because they're going against the 4 imprints. They're going against the web distributors that have the lower margins, but they have the higher transactions. No, 100%. Because when I was a distributor, I had a customer come to me and said, "Hey, I'm getting this Bic pen for this amount of money."
Yeah.
I went back to Bic, and that was, I couldn't even get that close on the net.
I had that same story with the whole Bic click stick with 4 imprint back in 2010, like when I was a distributor as well. Like, same story, and I get that. Like if you're comparing, like that's a brand. Bic is a brand. And so when you're selling the Bic stick click for much cheaper than anybody else can get it in the industry, that's a whole nother problem. That's why you got to find a comparable to the Bic click stick, or stick click, whatever they call it.
I mean, now I know,
but I'm saying like that's go ahead, Steven.
I don't know that that's what the goal of the Industry 100 though is.
It's not.
We just went off on a tangent.
It's
not. I would say profitability is important for a company, but is it the best place to work just because you're the most profitable?
100% not.
So that's why I think that there's the 8 categories that they use to try to determine what the top 100 are from different metrics. But I do agree that it's important to run a business. Maybe,
But this also isn't the industry's best places to work either. So I mean, there's a fine medium. So I understand where Cliff is coming from with the profitability thing, but ultimately we're talking about the PPAI 100, and so I think profitability certainly stands a.
You're doing it right.
There's a place there. And so, Josh, the metrics that you're talking about, like, I'm really interested in hearing about that as well. Like Cliff had mentioned, like if it's 34% or whatever from the distributor standpoint, like that's really interesting information to have and to sort of carry on. But
and how can a supplier help a distributor be more profitable? Sure. You just gave a great point. I think, there's ways that you can do that. That's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
Well,
Headwear and S&S. That's your no bias here. There's no bias here.
Let me see if I can vamp for a minute while also searching on my computer to give you just a quick list of some of the benchmarks that we look for. But I really like the discussion that you got into about how to how should we adjust our selling price for this product or that product based on what we know now? That's the point here, is to identify or provide some data, and then the industry as a whole, companies in the industry, can make decisions that are right for them based on that data. So it's great discussion. All right. So I will give you what I have in front of me right now is the supplier benchmarking. And
Okay, let's hear it.
It's kind of a short list, but
Perfect.
there will be more. So we have 2022 revenue of this group. They averaged $262 million. Revenue changed since 2019. The top 50 suppliers in the industry, the leading 50 suppliers, they averaged 29%. Total order count, 175,000. Integrated orders, basically, right? So the orders that go through a website a human doesn't touch, 32%. Gross profit margin, as I said, 35%. Sample costs, 1%. Factory employee turnover rate, 21%. Office employee turnover rate, 9%.
That's a tough benchmark right now in this, in the way that, not to interrupt you, sorry, but like we're living in the world of Amazon.com, right? Where we could be paying them X amount and Amazon is going to come in $2 more. And it is hard because we can onboard them. We can hire 40 people and then 2 people will show up, or all 40 people show up and then after lunch, they're all talking. And then 2 people come back after lunch because they're like, oh, Amazon right around the corner is, that kind of sucks. Just saying. Go ahead.
Think about, I mean, not to drive home kind of the point you guys were talking about earlier, but think about 35% margin if 35% of it was automated with no person touching it. That's a huge profitable
very much so.
If there's no overhead attached to, I mean, not to say to completely automate, but that's a definite thing to look at as far as overall company profitability as opposed to per order, margin. Just to kind of put the dots together there a little bit.
Yeah. So the last one I had in front of me right there was just on-time shipping percentage for suppliers. So that's probably a metric. It's probably a metric that Meg, you track pretty closely. Jeff, Headwear, 97% on time. So it was interesting to see. I visited our number one supplier and saw what their rating was. They do it at 99%. So it's interesting to see even how some of the best are able to stand out.
Awesome. Yeah.
Josh, I will say, I mean, I absolutely love what you're doing with PPAI and the editorial over there.
You had big shoes to fill. You had really big shoes to fill.
But I've honestly, like, since COVID and, just talking about the ocean shipping challenges and all that, like, I love clicking on the links that you guys send through with PPAI Newslink and just seeing what you guys have to say over there. So you've done a great job, man. So I appreciate you, and it's been awesome having you on the podcast. I know it's been a little bit of a mess today, but hey, we're live and we're trying to do a live broadcast from a PPAI event, and it comes with challenges, I'm sure, as you can imagine. So, but look, man, I appreciate you having you on, and I appreciate the time you're taking away from the event to join us. So.
Maybe you can come downstairs now and join us for a drink when you're
I will.
on the podcast.
Yeah, Josh, we're at the bar downstairs, Hotel Washington. Like, first one's on me. Come on down.
I'm on the way. Thank you for having me.
I'll be right there, guys.
Yeah. Okay,
Steven, since you're in the presidential suite, I figured you'd just come right on down too. I didn't even
have my own bar though.
So we should just meet you.
Because that gets expensive if you're, who's paying for that? Like, let's be honest.
Can you expense those drinks? I mean, that's the problem.
When you're a top 100 candidate, there's some perks. So
always perks.
All right. Well, listen, hopefully you guys found the podcast entertaining and, a little bit more casual today, but super excited.
Where is this list going to be broadcasted? Where is this list going out? Like, Josh,
Josh already said it's going to be PPAI Newslink on June 20th and 27th or something.
Exactly.
Somewhere.
This is a PPAI media joint. So you'll get it in Newslink. You'll get it on the website, media.ppai.org. It's going to be all in the July issue of PPAI magazine. We will make it very easy for you to find it. I promise.
That is good. It's really easy.
Josh, I got you, man. PPAI Newslink. Look, if you're not signed up, go sign up. Get the editorial. It's a lot of great information. But I've really enjoyed having you guys on, and super excited. But this broadcast was brought to you by our good friends over at Brentwood Line, and they're specializing in chairs, coolers, backpacks, and blankets. A well-respected supplier known not only for their high-quality products, but also known for their customer service. Brentwood Line values and appreciates its customers to the greatest extent, and they want to make sure that your expectations are met. So be sure to head over to BrentwoodLine.com, check them out, and check out the latest and greatest products for outdoor needs, and tell them the Industry Insider sent you. Or just make Erber. It's fine. But listen, really appreciate you guys. Josh, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Stephen, thanks for tuning in from afar. And we'll be seeing you guys until next time. Peace. There you go.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of PromoCorner's Industry Insider. For more great content from industry thought leaders, including podcasts, blogs, and videos, visit PromoCorner.com.